Hey everybody, nice to see you all.
Play Free Bird.
Hey, so I guess I want to get to know a little bit about the group that we've sort of spontaneously formed here. I want to know how many of you guys are here just for the day. Cool. How many of you are over? How many of you are have a place in the hotel and are staying over? Got it. So maybe about 2/3, 1/3. Okay. And how many of you? Okay. So next set of questions. I want to know the personalities that I have here a little bit. So we're going to do a favorite pony poll. Okay. So try not to. Let's not turn on each other. How many Rainbow Dash is at least one I see. How many people Rainbow Dash is your favorite pony? How many Rainbow Dashes? Okay, great. How many Fluttershies? How many Fluttershies? There, fist in the air, Fluttershy. Love that. How many Pinkie Pies do we have? All right. Very nice. I see big two-armed Pinkie Pie back there. And how many rarities? How many rarities? There we go. This is Rarity Corner right over here. How many? Okay, who am I forgetting? How many Applejacks? How many Applejacks? Got a couple here. No, we got some. Hey, no sneering at the Applejacks. We got a legitimate Applejack contingent here. And how many Twilights? Very nice, very nice. You are a Fluttershy and a Twilight. That's cool. All right, very good. All right, well, nice to meet you all. I'm Dave Polsky, and I'm a writer for the show, one of the writers. And I've written about a dozen. I've been involved in about a dozen. I mean, I've been involved in more episodes than that, but I have my name on about a dozen episodes. And I feel very fortunate to be part of this wonderful phenomenon. And I am happy to, so why don't we just go to questions? And so how do we want to do this?
All right, well, Phillies and Gentlecolts, Q&A is now open. So if you have a question that you would like to ask Dave Polsky, then please come up to this middle aisle. We'll form a line right here, and we'll go one by one. All right, so let's go ahead and begin this Q&A.
You have a perfect announcing voice.
All right, hi.
Hi,
Tell me your name.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, nice to meet you, Jonathan.
Wanted to ask, how episode ideas get done. Do you think them up yourself, or do execs say we kind of want an episode in which this happens, and then you write based on that prompt?
It's more often the former, the first, which is where we kind of come up with our own ideas. And when you say you, of course, I'm sure you mean you collectively. The writers. Yes, usually the ideas for episodes come originally from the writers in some way. Either one writer pitched it, or there were a group of writers in a meeting who kind of came up with it, or the showrunners, Megan or now Josh, maybe come up with an idea and they throw it out there, test it out. So any of the above would be writers, different ways writers can generate ideas, different places it can come from, and still be from the writers. However, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but occasionally, Hasbro will have a thing that they want to be represented in an episode. For example, the Crystal Kingdom came from the fact that they wanted to have, Hasbro wanted to have a Crystal Palace as one of their products. So that can happen, where there's something that Hasbro would like to sort of have in the show, so that they can also be selling toys around that. That sometimes is where the initiative comes from, and then we have to say, how do we do this in a way that feels organic to the show and not just a shill for a toy? So, but normally that's not how it goes. That's the exception of the rule.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Hello there.
Hi. Hi, tell me your name.
My name is Keegan.
Keegan, Dave, nice to meet you, Keegan.
Nice to meet you, sir. Seeing as how you are a former writer of South Park, Eric Cartman versus Discord. Will Equestria survive?
Eric Cartman versus well, no, that's why they don't let Eric Cartman into Equestria. That's been one of the mandates. Celestia has been very clear about this. So, in her infinite wisdom, no Eric Cartmans shall set foot.
Do you want to get a South Park reference in an episode?
I think that's highly unlikely.
I think it's more likely South Park would do something
Something pony related.
What's that? That is more likely. I don't know if that will happen, but some of the animated shows out there have been sort of. So, you know, who do we? I wonder how many. Do we have? I'm trying to think of all of the shows that were sort of. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Now I have a question. Can we sort of put our collective brains together and think of all the references that have been made to My Little Pony and other shows? I can think of, certainly, famously, Bob's Burgers, right?
Oh, yeah.
What other shows have referenced?
Harry Potter.
What?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter referenced My Little Pony?
Oh no, I thought you meant in the show.
Oh, no. That, like outside in pop culture that have referenced My Little Pony. What's that?
Teen Titans.
Teen Titans Go has? Colbert, as they call it. Yeah, he used to give shout outs to Bronies, and he did that thing about, I remember that where they did a clip of the show on talking about what Baghdad was like in 2008 or something.
Oh, right.
Really surreal, like, I don't remember that.
Andrew WK. I know he's
Yeah, the rock star.
Andrew WK, what's that?
He's a rock star who is famously a Brony and has worked with a few.
Yeah, he's made a few appearances at Brony.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Also Fox News.
Yes,
Fox News.
yes, that interesting fictional show. No, that's not right.
There's
I shouldn't say that. That's
Robot
not-
Chicken?
Huh?
Robot Chicken?
Robot Chicken has, yes.
a web series,
Huh?
Bravest Warriors has
Mad TV has.
referenced it.
ADHD. Animation domination by definition.
Got it. Okay. These are all places that are sort of parody, done parodies.
Death
of-
Battle.
Hmm?
Oh,
Death Battle, right.
That
versus
happened.
Starscream. They tried to do
Rainbow Dash
analysis
won.
of their weapons and tactics to see who would win.
Wow. Okay.
Rainbow won, so don't worry.
Very nice. So you're the Rainbow Dashes. Congratulations. Nice work. Way to represent.
There was college humor, but that was rather mean-spirited.
College humor. Okay. Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network's what? Matt.
O'Reilly Factor.
Nostalgia Critic.
Oh, God.
The Cleveland Show?
The Cleveland Show. Is that something?
Yes, they put a tiny reference in.
It's really obscure. It's a license plate. No, someone got arrested, and then like the card, it says TSRDPPFS. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was confirmed by like the people who put it in that yes, it is a reference, so it's not just random.
Wow.
There was a Top Fourth Wall, made a few jokes on it. Series.
Oh, the video game Borderlands 2 in the ending credits, like it says, "To my darling Fluttershy."
Really?
Yeah.
And also butts down.
Also
too.
butts down.
A horse made of diamond. Literally, a horse that's literally made of diamonds.
It's a reference to Rare.
And it's 2 unicorn horns.
I think that'd be cool if there was like some place that compiled all these references. Like, is there something online? There must be some kind of website that's compiled them.
Very extremely well detailed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Like
ask the
just one-
MLP subreddit, and someone is going to do it.
Yeah, but does it exist? Like some page online that would say here, boom, 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 boom.
Probably.
Somewhere.
That'd be cool. All right. Yes. Back to the Q&A.
As a second question,
Yes.
what would be your favorite thing you've written for any of the shows you've worked on, and your least favorite episode on anything you've worked on?
My least favorite what?
Your least favorite episode of anything you've written.
Of anything that I've written. I don't have a favorite thing that I've written. Sorry for the cop out, but I have a bunch of things that I've really enjoyed for different reasons. I really, some of the things that I've been most gratifying to work on have been South Park, the 2 scary movies that I worked on, the show that I created a show on Disney Channel called The Buzz on Maggie. And I did some sketch comedy shows, and then of course My Little Pony. And I will say, South Park certainly because it just was the first big famous. Actually, I worked on Singled Out prior to that, but South Park was exciting because, for obvious reasons, the fact that it just blew up the way it did, to work with people like Trey and Matt. Scary movie, the experience of being in a theater and seeing a movie theater and seeing people react to comedy. I don't want to go on because I feel like this feels like more of a. I'm just trying to be clear that the reasons I like different things, they were like the top of different lists, I should say. I don't have any one favorite. Least favorite thing to work on, I would have to say the thing that's been hardest is sometimes I have my name associated with things that didn't really turn out that well, that I really actually didn't feel like I had control over. So it's not so much that it was my least favorite thing to do. So I think there are a couple episodes, I don't want to name them, but like on this show, that I didn't have a whole lot of control over what actually went in, or the process by which the story was made, and so it just didn't turn out as well as I liked. So it's more that it's kind of like what was a bummer about those is feeling like I just didn't have the right chance to make it what I wanted it to be. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Tell me your name. Oh, how's it going? Pretty good.
Anyway, my name is Jacob.
Hey, Jacob.
I have 2 questions. First one, what are you going to do when Hulkamania runs wild on Tampa, Florida?
Okay. And second question.
What made you want to get involved with the fandom?
Okay, so the first question is I do not have a contingency plan for this, for the Hulkamania thing. So I'm really kind of, sounds like that's unwise. I probably should run some kind of drill just in case. So that's something I'll put some thought into after. Thank you. Is it imminent?
No, he's pretty old.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. That I can breathe easier now. And the second question was, what made me want to get involved in fandom?
Yes.
How could I not? The fact that this exists, two things: the fact that it exists, and the fact that I got invited to a con, my first con I was invited to back a couple years ago, and I went to that con not really knowing what to expect. I heard the term cosplay before. I was pretty unfamiliar with how fandoms work in general, certainly this one specifically. But I know that what a positive influence the fandom has been on this show is on My Little Pony, and turning it into something even more special than it already was. So I guess gratitude and curiosity are really the 2 things that made me want to get involved.
Thank you.
Sure. Hello.
Hi, good to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you.
Justin.
Jay, Justin.
You kind of answered this before the other day, but do you or any of the other writers ever look at these analyses and just flip out over episodes and go, what were you guys expecting, or why do you hate it so much? Does that ever bother you or any of the other writers from the show?
Well, yes and no. A lot of times, sometimes we know that the episode isn't our best work. Sometimes we're aware of that. And so then it's not so much like upsetting, it's just disappointing that we couldn't make it as good as it could have been, or as some of the other episodes have been. The other thing is that you can't expect every episode to be as good as every other episode. So sometimes episodes suffer by comparison, and so you kind of chalk it up to sometimes you hit an 8, sometimes you hit a 10, sometimes you hit a 6, and that's just the way it goes. But I would say the third thing is that sometimes is a little upsetting, is that sometimes the loudest voices are the most, seem like they're kind of have...
Extremists?
Yeah, so that some of the loudest voices have a lot to contribute to the fandom. And it has been great. But unfortunately, I think sometimes the loudest voices don't necessarily represent the wide opinion. They're just the loudest voices, and the wide opinion sometimes takes a long time to sort of emerge. For example, I'll give you an example of Equestria Games. The loudest voices when that one came out were about, what? We wanted a big Olympic explosion thing where everybody, we felt like some people felt cheated because there was this impression that because there have been 3 Equestria Games episodes leading up to it, and now we're finally at the Equestria Games, it would be just a bunch of tournaments, and to see, yay, who wins the tournaments. To us, that was really boring. That would be boring to us to write. I mean, I think that was pretty unanimous among the writers.
Yeah.
So, and probably boring to watch. So, so that's not what we delivered. We delivered something instead that I feel really well about. But the loudest voices were the ones upset about their expectation that because there were 3 episodes leading up to it, now we're finally at the Equestria Games, that it should have been X, when in fact it was Y. So I feel like we were true to what the show's about, which is it's a character-based show. It's not like like a competition thing where somebody's going to get a trophy and yay, that's what we care about. That's just not in the spirit of the show.
Plus, the other thing was that out of the entire main 6, only 2 were competing, and it was the same event.
Right,
They had
right.
no real connection to any of the games.
Exactly. So the thing is that in that situation, to me, this is sort of what was upsetting about it was that the loudest voices made it seem like the episode was a failure. But the people who really responded to it were the people who could resonate with the themes of the episode, which were about self-esteem and depression and and stuff like that. And of course, they're not going to try to shout down those voices because there tend to be them. But I think that was the majority. But you couldn't tell if you looked online that the majority of people responded to the show. It only emerged over time as sort of the initial outrage over this letdown that people perceive. So that's when it gets a little upsetting for me, is that when a minority of loud voices drown out the majority of softer voices.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Alexandria.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Alexandria Williams.
Well, tell me your name again. I didn't hear you.
Alexandria Williams.
Alexandria Williams. Hello, Alexandria.
I was asking, the Cutie Mark Crusaders actually going to have their cutie marks appeared in a TV show, or is just going to be something that's just going to continue on in the series?
So the question is that if the Cutie Mark Crusaders are going to get their cutie marks eventually, or if it's just going to go for the rest of the series, they're going to just keep trying. Is that the question?
Yes.
And the answer is, we'll see.
The second question is, are we going to see more of Derpy and other background characters?
Derpy.
Oh, Derpy. Well, did you, when you say more, did you see the 100th episode? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
So that felt pretty good, huh? That was a really fun episode. I loved that one. I wish I had nothing to do with it, by the way, but I loved it. So is there going to be more? Probably. I don't want to spoil anything.
And my fourth question.
Well, but I do want to say, even though my answers are like probably offering you zero information, I like that you're focusing on the things that are the things you're thinking about are the things the writers are thinking about too. Like how can we bring Derpy and other background cronies involved? How can we deal with the Cutie Mark Crusaders and resolve or not resolve their Cutie Mark Crusade? So I love that you're kind of picking that up, and that's an area of interest for you too. Oh, but what was your other question? I interrupted you.
I forgot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you jump to the head of the line if you remember, okay?
I wanted you go.
Oh, okay. Hi, what's your name?
I forgot to.
My name's Chris.
Chris? Hi, Chris.
Around MLP 100,
Yes.
Emily Larson went a bit furiously on Twitter about people watching the previews. So I just want to know what's your view on Discovery releasing those multiple 30-second previews, basically releasing half the episode before it even airs.
Oh, with Hasbro putting
Or
out?
not Hasbro, sorry, Discovery. Or whoever.
Discover. Oh, right. Well, it's. Yeah, I guess it could be one or the other because Hasbro's still making the show. But you're right. I guess Discovery would be the one deciding what the promos would be. I think it depends on the. I mean, I don't think it's a great. The short answer is I don't think it's a great idea to put out too many promos for one episode. However, I haven't noticed that as an issue. Like on the episodes where I don't check on every episode, but on the episodes that I have checked, it hasn't seemed like there have been more than a couple Have they been doing more than a couple, say, different
The recent one
previews
that-
on some of the episodes?
Yeah, the most recent one would be MLP 100, where they just released, because there was that extra week without an episode, so they basically just released multiple reviews.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that was specific to that episode, or that it's been happening to a lot of different episodes. Have you noticed it? Because that was a kind of a unique episode in that, for a couple reasons, because there were so many different characters featured in that episode, and because it was the 100th. Were there other episodes where there were multiple previews? How many previews were that one? Two. So yeah, I guess I don't know. I think if it's a chronic problem, I think it is a problem. But I'm not personally aware of it being a chronic issue.
But as a writer, like, what's your view on like people criticizing something before it's even out?
Oh, criticizing. Oh, you just ignore it because it makes no sense. It's like, yeah, you can't. If people are just. Here's the thing. I ignore it, but I'm just happy people are that interested to like invest energy in judging an episode over the preview. Like, it means people are paying attention and wanting to invest it. But yeah, you can't take anything seriously until the episode's been seen. Yeah, I'm not. That doesn't bother me.
Hello, my name is Nick.
Hi. You look familiar. Nick?
Yeah.
Hi, Nick.
I would joke around, pull out a list and say, hey, this is every episode you've done. I want to talk to you about continuity things, but I wanted to talk about. I'm an inspiring writer. I wanted to know, have you written other things aside from television or television movies? Have you written other things, and how did you get into writing for TV episodes and TV shows? So TV and movies and whatnot.
Well, yes, I wrote a lot of stuff before I became a professional writer. Although that wasn't my ambition to become a professional writer. I mean, I thought it would be nice, but I didn't really take it seriously because it seemed impossible. However, in college, I wrote a lot of comedy for a comedy club, I guess, performing troupe that was at college, and then I started an improvisational comedy troupe. So that's kind of writing, in that you're sort of creating scenes on the fly. And then after I graduated, I decided to write some short stories, and I wrote some short stories, and I wrote some poetry for a few years, learned how to write poetry, and read a lot of poetry, and I actually got published as a poet. So then a friend of mine from college, to segue into your second question about how I got into this, a friend of mine from college broke into the business, and then he invited me to help him out on a show that he was the head writer for. And I ended up getting a job on that show, and that was Singled Out at MTV. And what I found was that the fact that I've been working on poetry for so long really helped me in writing for Singled Out. And I know that sounds weird. I don't know if you remember that dating show, but the point is that it was a very short form. The writing was these short form questions that were meant to be kind of funny. And poetry kind of forces you to really be rigorous and really think about how you structure a sentence and how you structure a line and word choice and trying to create an effect. Within poetry, it's an emotional effect. With comedy writing, it's making somebody laugh or amusing someone. So that writing, it turns out, that I did for poetry was actually great preparation for my first few jobs working out here when that opportunity suddenly presented itself.
What about for like the writing process, like for you, like you're tasked to create an episode? How do you essentially go about writing it for yourself? So how do you go about writing it? Like, what do you do?
If I'm presenting, so when I'm tasked with writing an episode, as you put it, that's either I've been involved in helping create that idea, so that I've already got some momentum with it, or sometimes it's a premise that somebody else generated and is given to me because they need somebody to write it. At that point, we're expected to write an outline. So I'll usually in the case of the show, I'll meet with Megan or Josh or both and start breaking down, or sometimes another writer will be in the room and start breaking down the story into beginning, scene by scene, what's likely to happen, and we sort of talk it through. And then I'll go back home and then I write up a 3 to 5 page outline. sort of showing what the scenes are going to be, and then in each scene what's going to happen, and then that outline. And then that outline is sent to the executives for notes. So that's what I do. So did you want to know how I create an outline? Or? That pretty much answers it.
Could you answer the outline thing? Wasn't it? I'm sorry, I'm stuttering.
That's okay. Well, so one thing I can tell you is that I use a lot of note cards, and I have 2 bulletin boards in my office, and I have a lot of note cards, and I kind of have sort of my own idea about how stories are constructed, and so I'll put note cards up to sort of represent what the characters are doing in each of the scenes, and then when I feel like it's sort of working together, I'll write up an outline based on that. I kind of take down all the note cards, make a little stack, and then type up into sentences what the scribble on my note cards.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Ian.
Your name is?
Ian.
Ian. Hi, Ian.
I had a question. Is there any sort of difficulties that go into making an episode? Has there been an episode that got major changes changed to it at the last minute?
Yeah, there have been episodes like that where the thing that's hardest when you're writing an episode, is when the premise changes. When there's a premise for the episode, I'm charged with writing it up, and we're writing up the outline, and we're taking another pass the outline, and we do a first draft, and then what we kind of realize is that either there's something about the basic premise of the episode that doesn't feel quite right, that isn't quite working. Now that we've sort of fleshed it out, it's sort of like the problems in the premise were hard to see until it was kind of magnified, if you will, by trying to blow it out into a whole story. Then suddenly the things that were the limitations or flaws in the premise, which you couldn't see before, are now apparent. The problem is you've already invested all kinds of time, the schedule has moved forward and so forth, and at that point, there's this feeling like, oh, how about if we change the premise, or either make it different, make it slightly different, or make it completely different, may have a totally different main character, or have a totally different motivation, or totally different, put it in a totally different situation. That's the hardest, because then you basically have to sort of like, can take your breath, basically, in a certain sense, start from square one, and start figuring out the whole thing again. Sometimes there's time to do that right, and sometimes there isn't. So yeah, that does happen. Fortunately, it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does happen, it takes a toll, either either from a work standpoint and a schedule standpoint, or sometimes it takes a toll on what actually appears on screen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Troubleshoes and Coco Camel are 2 of my favorite characters on the show.
Oh,
and,
that's nice to hear.
And both of them were introduced in episodes that you wrote.
Yes.
How did their appearance on the show compare with how you had imagined them when you were writing those episodes?
Well, Coco Camel is cuter than I could have possibly imagined. And Troubleshoes is more horse-like than I imagined, which is also, both of those things were terrific. I loved both of those surprises. And Coco Camel, all the differences were just things that made it better. You know, the Troubleshoes, I had a different conception of what he would sound like. I had a different conception of what his sort of attitude. And I don't know if it was better or worse. I like what Jim Miller did, and it's kind of cool. People know that one of the directors of the show was the voice of it. So, and my understanding is that was a blind audition. They didn't know. In other words, he auditioned. He just submitted his tape without people knowing it was him, and then they ended up choosing him. So, but he had a different take. I didn't imagine him being such an Eeyore character. I didn't imagine him being such a sad sack. I imagined him being more of like, I don't know if that he was still had a lot of fight in him still, but he was frustrated. Like he's frustrated that nothing ever seemed to work out for him. So it really more that rather than being mopey, that he was kind of, the image that I had in mind was, that I kept hearing in my head when I was writing him was sort of a Western country version of, gosh, now his name flew out of my head. The guy from Eastbound and Down. What's that? Jerry Reed, is that his, that's the character's name? Wait, what's that? What's the actor's name? Why is it flew out of my head?
Just Google it.
Huh? So, he's part of Will Ferrell-led whole gang, huh? No, not Ricky Gervais. It'll come to me. But the main character from Eastbound and Down, the character he plays, that was the, sort of a, just like, kind of almost arrogant, but frustrated. So, been interesting to see how that would have turned out if they went that way, but they didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
My name is Steven, and I
Hey, Steven.
have two questions if I may ask.
Sure.
One, in regards to the episode, I'm aware, apparently the whole episode was amazing, and one of the biggest moments for me was like the whole part with Gummy speaking. Could we expect any more scenes of like Gummy specifically or any other of the pets in the near future?
Sure, you can look for those. I can't promise when or where, but yeah, absolutely. The pets are characters of the show, and they've how much, and who knows, maybe we'll explore Gummy's existential ruminations a little bit more. I don't know.
And the second question is, since My Little Pony has expanded from like the show, from, like the horses to like Equestria Girls, have you thought of like expanding like on other properties, like making like a show, I wouldn't say like a side series based off maybe the collectible card game, kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh style series? I don't know, card games on racehorses.
I haven't thought about it, but I'm sure Hasbro has thought deeply about it. But I'm not into those meditations.
Wait, what? Buy those toys. And those cards that are together. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Justin.
Hey, Justin.
I'm just wondering if there are like in jokes or pranks that the writing staff pull on each other.
Jokes or pranks that the writing staff play on each other?
Like the apple Jack pregnant and it's too scary.
Oh. I think that may happen. It doesn't happen a lot in the room because we're not together that much. We're together very rarely and working together. That most of our time is spent on our own writing from home, basically, or wherever the writers, different people writers write from. I write from home. So I think if we were a writing staff that met day to day, I'm sure that kind of stuff would happen. However, I think that it's quite possible that kind of stuff has happened at cons when multiple writers have been at the same con. As it so happens, I've been to 3 cons. There's never been another writer with me at a con, unless you count Gianberro, who wasn't writing for the show at the time. So it hasn't. So the answer is I don't know. That's a boring answer. I'm sure it's happened. I think the person asked is Mitch Larson. If there's been a practical joke, I'm sure of note. I'm sure he had some hand in it, either on the receiving end or the giving end.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Hello, it's me.
Hey, welcome back.
Well,
How have you been since I last saw you?
good.
Things good? Yeah.
Well, I just once asked. Earlier you referenced the analytical community of the Brony fan base, but
The what community?
Analytical reviewing community
Oh,
of the Brony fan base, but I thought that Hasbro had told the writers that they weren't allowed to look at fan projects and such for fear of being sued. Was this removed, or was it never a rule in the first place?
I'm not sure I heard every bit of that question. Something about you're talking about fanfics?
Well, the reviewing community and such, you mentioned them earlier.
Uh-huh.
But I was under the impression that Hasbro didn't allow its writers and such to read the fan fictions and reviews and such from.
Well, there's a distinction between. Now I understand your question. There's a difference between fan fictions and reviews. So like on YouTube, it'll say review of Equestria games, for example. We can watch reactions to the shows. Fanfics are completely different. Fanfics aren't commenting on existing episodes. They're whole new fictions. They're new stories based on the show in some way. So yeah, we're allowed to look at seeing how people reacted to a given episode. Yeah.
I thought that Hasbro just didn't allow any online meetings with fans in general, but thanks for clearing that up.
Sure.
My name is Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
I noticed a trend in season 5 so far. It seems to be negative about cutie marks. Why is this? Why is Hasbro focusing so much on the negativity of cutie marks?
The negative. So, what, for example, what was a negative thing about cutie marks?
Like, in the first 2 episodes, the premiere, they said it was bad for friendship. Like, I'm better than you kind of thing. And they had the whole equality town that was really creepy. And there's the Apple Bloom episode where she's so worried about what'll happen with her cutie mark. And then there's Troubleshooters who ended up with a cutie mark he didn't like. What's up with this trend? Because all before then, the cutie marks were considered a good thing, now.
Huh. Well, I guess I see it a little. I'm not agreeing. I guess I agree that those three facets of cutie marks have been explored. I guess I'm not sort of buying into the premise that it's negativity. I think it's an exploration. I think that's I consider that different than negativity. That, for example, in the premiere, when when we're talking about those equal signs as a cutie mark, I didn't see that necessarily as about a commentary about cutie marks as a concept. I thought that was more saying the idea, using cutie marks as a way of exploring the idea of, is everybody being equal a good thing or a bad thing? And I think the episode sort of made the person who was advocating using cutie marks as a way of creating equality forcing equality among a community. The episode's point of view, I think pretty clearly, was not in support of that it's better to have people have different cutie marks and not have to worry about whether or not they're seen as equal or not. So that was sort of the question was, is that a good idea to have everybody to erase status differences among cutie marks by making everybody have to have this equal sign? And the episode's answer, after exploring that question, was no, it's better to have everybody have their own individual ones. So then, in the follow-up episode, the question was, but now if you're among friends and if you have cutie marks that are different, does that try to make one person's cutie mark more special than another person's cutie mark, and then make that person more special than the friend, and then create a division among the friends, right? And so that was the question of the episode. The episode explored that question. In Apple Luce's Most Wanted was exploring the question of, is it possible to misinterpret your cutie mark? Is it possible to say that you think your cutie mark is a curse when really maybe you just don't really understand what your cutie mark is? So to me, these are just it just adds more depth. So I agree that there might be, we're sort of looking at the light and dark sides of cutie marks. We're sort of shedding light on the fact that cutie marks can have their own sort of paradoxes and complexity. So, and with that might come darker shadings, which might consider negativity. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective, I think, than you, where I'm sort of seeing it as really sort of thinking hard about what cutie marks are and what are the different sides of cutie marks, and could they have negative impacts or not, and how do you deal with those? So that's how I wanted to just sort of, so I think, yes, I think you are seeing a trend in that, and I think you're right about that. There is a trend in looking, but I see it as a trend of looking at cutie marks more closely and sort of really treating them as a real thing and thinking about what could be the good and bad about it, and how do you emphasize the good over the bad, and how do you negotiate the bad so that it isn't hurtful. So I don't see it as, I wouldn't paint the whole thing with the brush of negativity, personally.
Did you write that episode?
Which one?
The one with the equal signs?
I did not.
It was brilliant.
Oh.
It was brilliant. I'm trying to get
No, but I was in the story meeting where we sort of came up with the concept. So yeah, I did. I feel like I had a hand in it, but I'm not competitive on it.
How do you feel about season 5 so far? I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. So far, so far so good.
Also, a question to the audience as well. Did anybody else notice that if you saw the newest episode, Starlight Glimmers in the left-hand corner? Sorry.
Oh, do you mean the one last week or today?
Last week.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, she was in the corner at the restaurant. I bet you can bring her back.
Think so?
I think so.
We'll see.
The finale was shown at San Diego Comic-Con.
Hi, I'm Gabby.
Hi, Gabby.
Do you try to gear episodes towards the older audience?
Do we try to, what an episode to?
To like gear the episodes towards the older audience, like more complex stuff?
I think that I would say, if I had to give a short answer to that, I would say no. If I'm going to give one of my typically long answers, I would say that the fandom has given us permission to tell more complex stories, to make the show more sophisticated. Still, the aim is always to entertain a 6 to 11-year-old girl. That's always the aim. However, because we have this fandom, everybody's on board with the idea of aiming higher than that without compromising that basic requirement. So we're always aiming at the same place, but we're allowing ourselves to make it more interesting for ourselves and the fans at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm Jared.
Hey, Jared.
You speak as though you watched the show. Do you actually watch the show?
I do. I haven't seen every episode, but I do watch it.
Do you have a favorite character?
Do I have a favorite character? I do not. I'm going to cop out on that one too. However, I think I do have a special place in my heart for Pinkie Pie. You know, I like them all, but Pinkie Pie, I guess if I had to, if someone, I don't know why they would do this, held a gun to my head and made me say, I would say, you are seriously ill, and I would also say, Pinkie Pie, please put that gun away.
Funny.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Annette.
Hey, Annette.
And I asked Claire Corlett a similar question, how long between voice acting and seeing the episode does it take? How long between writing an episode and then seeing it does it take?
Oh, that can take like a year. Yeah, I mean, it depends a lot. I would say the production of an episode generally takes 9 months to a year after the writing is done. There's about 9 months to a year more work. Now, when that work starts varies. Also, of course, the question, as you well know, the question of how long it takes to premiere a season varies. So it can take more than that. Like Appaloosa's Most Wanted, for example, I finished up work on that probably about a year and a half before it premiered. Or no, about 15 months before it premiered, yeah.
And I also have one more question. Is it harder or easier for you to work alone or with other writers with you? All right.
It depends on the phase of the writing. So some parts of the writing are more conducive to group interaction, like coming up with the initial idea for an episode can be easier when you have a bunch of other brains in the room. Sometimes coming up with structuring the story it can be easier when you have more input. However, the actual writing of scenes and the sort of writing of a first draft, it's really better to do that alone. And then the workflow is organized accordingly. Like we try to get people together, more than one person together for the earlier parts, and then for the writing part, it's usually just the writer. So the whole process is designed to accommodate the fact that sometimes it's easier one way, sometimes it's easier the other, depending on what stage of the process you're in.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, it's me again.
Hey, welcome back.
We got brought up going before. I just wanted to ask, who came up with that idea to have him do that monologue? Were you guys all talking about it, or
which monologue? Sorry.
In the 100th episode, Yummy's internal.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't involved at that point. So that sounds like could have very well come from Mitch, or I don't know who it came from.
Okay. The thing I wanted to ask, I have two questions. Like, do you ever feel like like a bit of burnout whenever you're like writing or like trying to come up or brainstorm or just go through, I guess, the more sloggier parts, not the of an episode or of I'm sorry, let me first say that. When like you're writing an episode, are there ever parts where it's like just the slow part that you just feel like you just think a bit of burnout when you're just writing and focusing on it a lot?
Well, I think if I'm sort of, I take the fact that if I'm losing interest in what I'm writing, that there's a sign that there's something wrong, that either the scene isn't quite conceived the right way, or sometimes there's a problem with the whole premise, like we talked about. Sometimes the whole premise has to change. So the answer is yes, sometimes that happens, but then generally I'll try to step back and say, okay, is there something about how we've sort of set the table for this particular part of the script, how this, how that maybe needs to be looked at again, so that, because as long as your character really wants something, the main character really wants something, or there's something really interesting that you're working towards, you can maintain that level of excitement and keep writing through, and it doesn't. But yeah, I take it, if I start to lose interest, I take it as a sign that something needs to be rethought.
I see.
Yeah.
And the other question I want to ask, someone brought up before about fanfics. Like, do you or any of the other writers look at, or have you ever like just decided to browse fanfiction.net for fics?
No.
Does Hasbro allow you guys to even
to read fan fiction?
Yeah.
No, we're not supposed to, and we don't. And we're to be brutally honest, we're not interested. I mean, not that there isn't good fan fiction out there. I'm sure there is, but we're coming up with our own ideas. You know what I mean? It's just we're not. We're interested in the show that we're making, not in the sort of satellite shows that other people are making about it. You know, it's not what we're.
What you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Sunset Shimmer. No,
Hi.
I'm just kidding, I'm Hannah. Before I say my question, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how involved you are with the community and how you try to make all the episodes as just really just trying to make it for the community that you have here. And it's really nice.
Oh, thank you so much.
But also, my question is, and I'm not saying that if this is going to happen or not, but have the writers thought about including Applejack's parents or explaining where they are?
That's come up, absolutely. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of a hard question to answer. Thank you.
Sure.
My name's Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
I wanted to tell you that you ruined Chris Hardwick for me because I thought he was brilliant in Singled Out. I remember that show, and now I learned that it's you, so big points. I always thought that show was hysterical, so I just want to share that with you.
Thank you.
And basically, I just wanted to thank you. I find the writing of the show, my son comes to me and tells me he's a Brony, I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, And I start watching the show, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it gives me an opportunity. I've had teachers and other parents that I've talked to about it, and the writing is just so brilliant that I'm proud to be able to go and tell other parents, don't worry, it's good. This is good stuff. The lessons are also positive, and you guys just support the kids so well, and we really appreciate it. Parents, we really
Thank you. What's your name? Dawn. Oh, Dawn. And is your there you go. Hi.
Yeah, that's my son.
Oh,
Are you going to BronyCon this year?
I don't think so, no.
You're not going to go to
No. I still haven't made it to BronyCon. Hopefully next year.
You should.
Yeah.
It's amazing. 15,000 kids. It was crazy last year. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. I went, I cried my eyes out that I didn't have an all-weekend pass, and we're going back this year for all 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
You're going too? Very nice. All right, enjoy. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi there, I'm Gage.
Hey, Gage.
Nice to meet you. I was just wondering, I know you said Pinkie Pie is like quote unquote your favorite character. I was just wondering who's your favorite to write for? Which one do you get the most enjoyment out of writing?
Character I get most enjoyment out of writing? any one particular one. I would say that Pinkie Pie is the most fun when you get it right, but sometimes it's hard to get Pinkie Pie right. You know, that to not just make her just
Pure comic relief.
pure what? Yeah, exactly. Just sort of that in a way that trivializes her. It's sometimes that's hard.
Ditzy.
Huh?
She comes off as ditzy sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, and it's not quite, doesn't feel quite right, it feels off. I agree. It's really, I don't think of it that way. I don't think of it as like I have a character, a favorite character to write for. I think of it as like, a premise that seems to really fit the character, that explores a fresh angle of the character. That's the most, whichever one it is, that's the most exciting thing for me. So like for example, I don't know that Fluttershy is my favorite character to write, but it was really fun to write her in Keep Calm and Flutter On, because that gave her, to sort of explore the power of kindness, of her element. That was really, I really enjoyed doing that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to interrupt here and say we have 1 minute left, so that means we only have time for one question, so I'm sorry.
Can we maybe somebody who hasn't asked a question already? Okay, sure. Can we do 3 more? Can we get these three people who haven't asked already?
If we can speed run them.
Okay, okay.
I'm a big fan of your scary movies. I really love them.
Oh, thank you.
It's my first time talking to you, actually. Because I never knew who was the creator of that movie until now.
What? Tell me your name again.
Gabriella.
Hi.
You got me really inspired of your movies. I always like making my own monsters.
You like making your own monsters, like in writing and stories, or you draw them? You draw them.
Yeah.
Awesome, fantastic. Did you bring any?
I only have some of my pictures on my phone.
All right. Well, if you're around later today, I'd be interested to see them.
Okay. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you. Hi.
Hi. I'm Andrea, but I'm cosplaying as Pinkie Pie.
Hi, Andrea.
Me and my sister, we really like your scary movies. I basically get a little scared from them, but sometimes I would think of like my own monsters, like my sister. I don't draw by design. And give me inspiration of drawings on my own. You're a little inspiration to my sister too. And I would like to thank you for giving my sister that inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you for saying so. I really appreciate it. Good luck with it.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And what's your company name?
Andrea Williams.
Hi, Andrea.
I came to ask a question. My daughter is a Derby fan.
Yes.
And when you were announcing all the ponies, and you didn't say the Derby.
Oh, I didn't mention Derpy. I'm sorry. That ain't right.
Yeah, and a lot of times she feels really sad that Derpy is felt like an outcast, and I was wondering, like when you announced the ponies, would you add Derpy so the fans with Derpy could feel like they're included a little bit more?
I see. So you mean when I was asking who people's favorite ponies are? That part at the beginning?
Yeah.
So that's a fair question. The thing is that I sort of, you know, when the show was created, first conceived, in Lauren's mind, the way she pitched it, there were really 6, we call them the main 6, M-A-N-E 6, right? So that's, when I ask who people's favorite ponies are, I usually ask those 6. My fear is that if I add Derpy, then people are going to think, well, can you ask who you know, the Sweetie Bells, who their favorite is, and who their favorite, you know, or the DJ Pond fans, you know. So I'm a little, I can't promise that I'll do that, only because I'm afraid it sort of opens up a can of worms.
Well, it makes it feel like that she's not included, but she's included, but as in, like she's kind of in the shadow, and it makes her kind of feel sad, and then it makes me feel sad because we wait and watch for her, but we don't get as much, I guess. So I just wanted to know, just tell you about the announcement with the 6. That would have been nice.
Well, how about if we try to make it right? I can't promise I'll do that, but how about if we do this instead? Can we see a show of hands of who here loves Derpy? Can we have a round of applause for Derpy? I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna shout Derpy. 1, 2, 3, Derpy! Did that help a little? All right. All right, thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Three.